Good morning, ladies. So today our learning target is I can identify point of view and evaluate its impact on the story. So what I really want you to focus on are some of those clues that we have for identifying point of view, whether it's first person or third person, and then think about kind of what the reader gains and lacks from looking at a story in first person versus third person point of view. We're going to talk all about that with our second read, but keep that in mind for our first. Then we're going to preview our questions and get into our next close read. The Phonograph by Rachel Howard. Adam groaned and dropped his duffel bag and backpack heavily onto the floor of the small cabin he and his family had just entered. They would be here for almost 2 weeks. His dad's idea of family bonding and a good summer vacation. It had rained the entire 5-hour drive to the cabin. The dark gray clouds that hung low in the sky didn't seem to be drifting away. Outside was the heavy forested state park, and just about nothing else. They hadn't even seen a they haven't even passed a ranger's hut for miles and miles, excuse me. And there wasn't even internet or cell service here. This is great, Julia, Adam's twin sister, dropped her duffel bag onto the floor and flopped back onto the old, creaky couch. She was a lot like their dad. She couldn't think of anything more fun than hiding out in the middle of nowhere for 2 weeks, just spending time with family and hiking when the mood struck. She and Adam had many differences in their personalities, that he couldn't believe they had shared the same womb. Yeah, it's awesome, Adam said as he sat down on the couch next to her and noticed the old clunky television set on the wooden console table in front of them. His dreams of faking sick to watch daytime Major League Baseball while the rest of the family hiked around the mountains quickly died. Look at this, Dad exclaimed, walking through the doorway. His hair was plastered with water and rain dripped down his face. There's even a fireplace. I can't wait to get that all built up. Mom shut the bathroom door behind her. At least the toilets work, she muttered. Adam immediately felt a rush of goodwill and companionship towards his mom, with whom he usually fought over the TV's remote control in the family computer. The fact that he didn't have his own computer was a whole other issue. This is really going to be fabulous, his dad said. He swiped his hair back over his head so that it slicked back, shook out his hands. He locked the door and got busy unpacking all the groceries they had purchased in the mini-mart just outside the state park. Adam's mom rolled her eyes and sat between Adam and Julia on the couch. Their mom had been kind of weird around their dad for a while now. Julia and Adam had talked about it before they left. Mom seemed distant, always looking off in another direction whenever anyone asked her a question, washing clean dishes that were sitting in the drying rack, things like that. Dad didn't want to talk about it. He just said that Mom had lots on her mind and that the twins should leave her alone. Adam hated when their dad brushed things under the rug like that. But Julia said it was his way of coping. She always seemed to have the answer to that sort of emotional thing. What's on TV? Mom said, reaching toward the fat old-fashioned remote. Nuh-uh-uh, Dad said, rushing over and pulling out the remote out of her hands. Let's just see how far we can go without watching TV. Like we said, right? Mom leaned back on the couch and crossed her arms. I'm going to unpack, Julia said, standing up. She looked at Adam pointedly, and he followed her to the back of the house, where they would share the second room. He closed the door behind them. Wow, there's a lot of tension in that room, she said, dropping her duffel onto the bed by the window. Yeah, Adam said. He liked to let Julia analyze certain situations before he formed an opinion about them. He supposed it was part of being a twin, but maybe he was just lazy. I feel that Mom's been so distant lately, and Dad's been so weird about it. There has to be something else going on, right? Julia stood, half looking at him across the room, with her hands on her hips. The gloominess from the outside rain, she looked like a shorter version of their mom, but with light hair. Yeah, Adam said. What do you think it's all about? She sat on the bed, looked at him intently. I don't know, Adam said truthfully. How was he supposed to try to understand parents' world? Can you contribute anything, Adam? Julia hurled at him, and she stomped out of the room. Wow, Adam thought. We haven't even been here 3 hours, and everybody's already angry at each other. Adam fell back onto the bed and stared at the boring wooden ceiling. He noticed a small metal door handle in the far left corner of the ceiling, obscured by a deep shadow. Adam was curious, so he pulled the bed over to the wall and reached high above to pull down the door handle. It opened a wide rectangular trap door in the ceiling. There must be an attic up there. Adam listened hard for any noise from his family, but he heard nothing. He assumed they were all stewing in anger. His dad trying to make a remote vacation special, his mom crippled by boredom, like Adam was, and his sister annoyed that Adam had proven, once again, to be a terrible confidant and boss and buddy. He shrugged and pulled himself up, monkey bar style, into the attic. It was a big square room with two grimy windows looking north and south. The people who owned the cabin must have stored all of their personal stuff in the attic when they rented it out to people crazy enough to actually pay to stay here, Adam thought. There were cardboard boxes stacked up to the slanted ceiling, and piles of old papers stacked up on a wooden table and chairs. A mannequin with a black lacy dress huddled next to a large whitish robe, and an old clock lay overturned by a few huge ornate trunks with gold molding on the sides. Adam moved farther into the room, coughing against the dust that billowed up off the floor. In the corner was a large machine that had an old-fashioned horn standing up on it. Out of it, excuse me. Adam had seen pictures of the object. Before he had seen a phonograph, but had never seen a phonograph in real life. He walked back toward it, drawn by the dusty brass horns and heavy box that held it up. He touched the scallop edges of the horn, running his fingertip along the circumference. It was so different from the sleek technology of his iPhone and flat-screen TV and Wii game console that he used so often. The record player was not something you could just pick up and carry around in your pocket, listening to whatever music you wanted at whatever hour of the day. Adam dusted the phonograph off with the hem of his sweatshirt, which immediately turned gray. Mom wouldn't be too happy about that. There was a brass knob on the side of the box, and Adam turned to wind it up. Nothing happened. Adam thought it might be like a music box, but he wound the knob to the right, and he would wound the knob the right way and would release some kind of sound. But it didn't seem to be working. Adam stopped turning the knob and decided to try something he had only seen in cartoons. He put a sharp needle down in the black circle that had been placed at the top of the box. All of a sudden, faraway music began to play, reminding Adam of the old-time black and white movies his mom used to like to watch with him and Julia when they were little. Adam sank to the old wooden box of the attic and leaned against the wall, listening to the quiet music. He imagined people in grayscale dancing together in circles to the music. He imagined bonnets and hoop skirts and suits. Sitting there in the gloom and dust of the unloved attic, Adam felt transported back to another time. After it was an hour, when it finally stopped raining, Adam climbed back into the bedroom. Julia was calling from outside the door, her muffled voice sounding annoyed. He closed the trapdoor carefully and hoped Julia wouldn't notice when she came in to go to sleep. "Did you fall asleep?" Julia asked Adam when she opened the door. "No." Adam pushed past her to the kitchen, where his mom and dad were sitting at opposite ends of the table waiting for the twins. "Let's have a nice dinner," Mom said, noticing the annoyance on both of her children's faces. They ate pasta and salad for dinner with some chocolate cake for dessert afterwards. Everyone's mood seemed to have quieted down. They were able to laugh with each other. Even Mom was engaged, joking around with Dad about the sad contents of the tiny mini mart and how she didn't know if they'd be able to survive off canned foods and whatever they could forage from the state park. After dinner and everyone else had fallen asleep, Adam thought about waking Julia up to tell her about the phonograph. After considering it for a few minutes, he decided not to. He would keep it his secret, his special place reserved for the times his family let the tension build up and bubble around them. He would vacation to the attic with the lovely old music and drift away to another time when he needed to. So just a little reminder, there is an electronic version of this on ReadWorks, and now let's preview our questions before our second read. Number 1, where do Adam and his family go on vacation? Number 2, what is the climax of the story? Remember, climax is the turning point of the story. Number 3, Adam's mom is not getting along with Adam's dad. What evidence from the story supports this statement? How does Adam feel about being on vacation at the beginning of the story? What is the theme of the story? Number 6, read the following sentence. He would vacation to the attic with the lovely old music and drift away to another time when he needed to. What does the phrase drift away to another time mean? Okay, so think about that, what it figuratively means. They don't literally means that he gets to travel back in time, even though that would be super cool. Figuratively, what does this mean? Number 7, Little grammar work. Choose the answer that best completes the sentence below. Adam likes listening to the phonograph. Blank. He does not like being in the cabin very much. Number 8. What large machine does Adam find in the cabin's attic? Number 9. How does Adam feel when listening to the phonograph? Number 10. Why does Adam decide to keep the phonograph a secret? Support your answer with evidence from the story. So those 10 questions are in ReadWorks, but Ms. Egan has added in 3 more questions in regards to point of view that truly support our learning target even more. So for A, the story is told in blank point of view. How do you know? You have to fill in your little space here and tell me which point of view it is, first or third. And then how do you know those clue words that you identified? B, what does the reader gain from reading the story in this point of view? So remember we talked about this. Think about as a reader, you're evaluating right now, okay? So think about all the characters in the story. Think about what you gain from the point of view that you identified in A, okay? As a reader, what is the benefit from having that point of view? So gain, think positives. C, let's evaluate the author. Do you think the author conveyed the theme of the story well? So remember, back up multiple choice question, I believe it was 5 or 6. You have to identify the theme. So once you choose that theme, you got to think, did the author convey that? Did the author tell us that theme well in the story? Would the story have been better if it was told in a different point of view? So again, we're not changing anything about the story's plot, but if it was told in the opposite point of view, how would it be? Would it be better? Would it be different? And as a reader, what do you wish was included in the story? Alrighty, so now it is time to close read. All right, time to close read. Chunk your text however you would like to, whatever makes sense is the lengthier passage. So however that can best suit you. Circle and attempt to define unknown words. Remember, don't get hung up on this task here. You're circling words, you're using your context clues around you. But if you're really struggling with how to define it, just leave it. It's okay. Underline key information. Remember to focus on information that would help to support your answers because you've already previewed your questions. Yay, snaps for that strategy. You're summarizing in the margin and you're going to identify any elements that may be helpful. So I'm going to show you mine in just a moment to compare to my close reading notes. But what I did, you'll see, is I did all of my little kind of cheat sheet for point of view. So think about those clue words, okay? Also, this would be a great time to use your reference page that was at the beginning about those clue words to identify point of view if you've forgotten. All right, ladies, so now what I want to do is I want to show you my close reading marks. Again, what you should have done is pause the video, close read, used your little reminder sheet from what I just showed on that slide, and you're comparing your notes against mine, okay? So you're evaluating your summary notes. You're taking a look at key information. You're looking at my little clues and things that I have in the margin. So what I did for this learning target was I kind of phrased it more into a question about things that I really want to make sure that I'm focusing on. So I can identify point of view and evaluate its impact of the story. So I'm asking my question, how does the way the story is told impact the reader's understanding? Okay, so again, point of view is who's the narrator, who's telling the story, is that narrator in the story, not in the story, and those clue words. So as you can see, I put those kind of off to the side here, POV clues. For first, I, me, mine, ours, not in dialogue, okay? So if they're not surrounded by quotation marks, I know that definitely in first person. Third person, character's dialogue is introduced. They're saying, Adam said, she said, mom and dad said, and then the narrator is not in the story. So here too, I give myself a little reminder. I want to think about point of view contributions to the story elements. I'm thinking about plot. I'm thinking how that influences different character conflicts, okay, about how the story is being told. So now if I take a look kind of through my notes here, Adam groaned. I kind of underlined here, and that makes me that he's unhappy about it, right? If you're like, you're not like really excited. So I kind of put that because that kind of shows some of his feelings. Um, and then here, this is great. His twin sister, little kind of notation here that sister feels differently. Okay. They would be here for almost 2 weeks, and his dad idea of family bonding, and that they're in this small cabin. It kind of gives us the setting, kind of where the story is taking place and that time of year. And it's kind of a remote place. There's not cell or internet service. So for my summary notes for my first chunk, it's summer vacation. In a cabin, twins feel differently about the trip. Short and sweet. Okay, here's our first clue about the twins, that they're twins, right? She and Adam had so many differences in their personalities that he couldn't believe that they shared the same womb, meaning that they were in there at the same time, that they're twins. Okay, so started my first chunk here. His dreams of faking sick. He was even trying to kind of get out of his vacation once he was there. He wants to stay inside and watch baseball. Those are my notes off to the side. Um, and then we kind of learn about mom, right? Mom has similar feelings towards Adam. And so this kind of goodwill, this positivity and companionship, this is what Adam kind of felt immediately for his mom when she sees that she's kind of complaining about, oh, at least those toilets work. And then dad comes back in talking about how it's fabulous. And again, mom rolling her eyes, kind of showing those similar personality traits to Adam. So now we kind of find out that there's been some tension between the parents. So distant meaning not present, and coping about dealing with things. So mom had been kind of weird around dad for a while. Dad didn't want to talk about it and is kind of brushing it under the rug. So tension between mom and dad, and each of them are handling it differently. Okay, so mom's distant, dad is ignoring. Um, so then we kind of talk here about some words that I have so pointedly when she's looking at Adam, like when she's doing that, she's kind of urging him to follow her, excuse me, so they can discuss kind of what's going on with the parents. Tension is like that negative energy. Okay, duffel, this is just her duffel bag, her bag that she keeps her belongings in. And he likes that Julia analyzes certain situations, kind of figures them out before he kind of makes his own judgment or opinion about it. So then I just have the twins go back to discuss in the room. Lengthy passage. So here, what I'm just kind of doing is those little plot summary notes here in the margin to kind of keep the story on track. So intently, seriously, contribute, help out with. So here's where Julia is kind of talking to him like, are you going to help me out with this? Are we going to figure this out together? Julia wants to figure out what's going on in the back room, and Adam doesn't know what to do. He's just kind of waiting for her to figure those things out. So then Adam is kind of alone in that back room and he's kind of looking around. He's curious, right? Wanting to know more. Everybody else is stewing in anger, just sitting around kind of upset. And then they kind of go through what each of the other characters are doing, right? Remote, far away. Mom is unable to move by her boredom. Um, and then Adam is saying how once again he's proven to be a terrible confidant and bosom buddy, meaning that this kind of trustworthy friend. So Adam makes his way up into the attic. And then this is kind of where we finally get to figure out why the story is called Phonograph and what he discovers. So he finds this phonograph, right? We have kind of some words here. So the people who rented it must have stored things up in the attic. And then in the corner was a large machine. So he describes it. So then we kind of talk here about this phonograph. And then on the next page, it gives us a great definition. So I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. It was so different from the sleek technology of his iPhone. So he kind of gives that comparison, right? Talking about the differences in technology, kind of taking us back in time. So this record player, so that's like that reference right there to that phonograph. And it was from the previous page. So that's why I made that notation there. The phonograph played music that made Adam feel like he went back in time. And what I did was I kind of underlined those key details there, transported back to another time. We know that he literally isn't going back into time, as cool as that would be to go through one of those time machines. It just feels like he's going back in time because of the old timey music. Okay, and then next chunk, he comes back downstairs. They ate a nice meal together, right? Everybody's kind of talking. They're even having, they said mom was even engaged. Everyone's mood seemed to quiet down and they were laughing with each other. So some really nice positivity there. Um, I love this part kind of here at the end. So kind of drift away. He's imagining this other time. And he has this kind of moment where he wants to share it with his sister. He's like, oh, I wanted to wait for the parents to go to bed. But then he thought about it for a few moments. And then he decided to just kind of keep the secret to himself. Okay, this was kind of his way of dealing with things. This was his little personal secret that he could kind of keep with him forever. And then, especially while the rest on their trip, kind of escape when things, maybe that tension did continue to build up. So I have my notes on the side here that the phonograph was Adam's secret escape on vacation. Okay, so a couple questions that I want to focus on. I really want to go all the way down to those last A, B, and C questions, the ones that were added in, because those you're not going to be able to submit on ReadWorks. Those we're just going to be submitting in your packet for when you turn in, but I want to kind of talk through them. So again, my answers will be here and we're going to go through them, but you are doing yourself no good service if you're just copying my answers. You're comparing your answers. You're going to see, oh, Miss Egan has this, I have this too. Or, oh, maybe I should include that next time. Or this was another great detail. So again, just because my answer is here with the appropriate details doesn't mean that your answer couldn't have been a little bit different or that you couldn't have had other details to support it. So this is the time where you should be evaluating your answers and your answer should already be finished. Okay, so I want to jump all the way down to these questions here. So the story is told in third person. How do you know? Okay, so those my clue words I kind of include in here too. So I said, I know the story is told in third person because the narrator is not a character in the story. The only time the words I, me, let's, and you are used is when they are introduced in dialogue between characters. We as the readers are able to learn the feelings and thoughts of the other supporting characters. Okay, so yeah, Adam is our main character, but the other supporting characters we're able to see their emotions. Okay, so I talk a little bit more of that here in question B. What does the reader gain from reading this story in this point of view? So again, what does the reader benefit from? What do we get to see? We're thinking about all those positives. Now, the things that we're lacking, what are we gaining from this point of view? The reader gains the thoughts and feelings of the supporting characters, not just the main character. Although Adam is who the story is mostly about, we are able to learn that his sister is motivated based on her thoughts and actions. Readers are aware of other characters in third person. Okay, so here what I was really thinking too was that we wouldn't have realized how important the phonograph finding was to Adam here. We didn't know about everything else that was going on in his family. Okay, we really kind of got to see that tension between the parents, the difference between the siblings, and it was very cool to kind of see that story in that way. If we only had Adam's perspective, we might have maybe thought that he was overreacting, or um, it might not have kind of resonated with us so strongly if we didn't have that other part. Let's take a look at C. Let's evaluate the author. Do you think the author conveyed, again, conveyed means told, uh, the theme of the story well? Would the story have been better if it was told in a different point of view? As the reader, what do you wish was included in the stories? We have a couple different questions here. Just make sure that you're answering all of them and then backing up your response. All three of these are big inference questions. And as you can see from my first two, I had to kind of really explain my thinking. I don't have the text states with direct quotes. I'm having more kind of analytic detail. So I said, the author conveyed the theme of the importance of having a way to escape the troubles in your life in an effective way by telling the story in third person. The reader is able to understand the supporting character's feelings and how they may impact the main character and the lesson he learns. Okay, so again, we're focusing on that message. The finding of the phonograph wouldn't have been as significant if we didn't see the conflict between the parents and between siblings. Okay, so I could have added in extra details here, but I did kind of run out of lines. Miss Egging's a writer. So you could have added in maybe some details about the conflict. Oh, conflict is shown here. Or you can say the theme is supported here. So again, you could have had any other details here. This was kind of open-ended, but you also got to evaluate. Maybe you thought that the story would have been told if it was better in first-person point of view, maybe from a completely different character, maybe from the mom's point of view or Julia's. So again, certain questions like this, there's really no right or wrong answer, but what we have to make sure of is that we're supporting our responses with our own thinking, text evidence. We're evaluating, right? We're not just spitting back details, we're giving that analytic part and you're showing your knowledge. All right, thank you, ladies. Remember to submit your questions 1 through 10 on ReadWorks so I can take a peek at them. Miss you all.